I save a prayer for those who care. I keep the faith, but no one will dare to hold my hand until the end. When all the pieces fall into place, my body's weak, the mind is tired, but there's a fire that heals deep inside. I close my eyes and stretch my soul to gather up the nerve to carry on. Daisies everywhere. Until the
Rana,
Hey, how's it going?
welcome.
Thank
How are
you.
you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Extremely well, and welcome to Marvel Talks. Thank you for accepting my invitation.
Thank you. What does Marvel mean? I'm curious.
Marvel is an acronym I came up with when I published my latest book. It's on management and motivation. It stands for meaning, autonomy, relatedness, values, experience, and learning. And these are the components of motivation for a team, for building a highly driven team within an organization. So I took it and I used it as part of my brand, just to give it some more spin and to push it into the stratosphere of what I do.
I like it. It reminds me of something magical.
Superheroes, maybe as well.
Superheroes, yeah.
The association was not intended, but I like it. So that's fantastic. What time is in Sydney right now?
It's 9 p.m.
Ooh, fantastic.
Thursday night.
Fantastic. So let me do, for our viewers who are slowly gathering before the stage, let me do a brief bio for Rana. Rana is a world-renowned sales coach who has worked in a variety of sales roles, from recruitment, employment services, real estate, training services, to selling software and more. She currently runs her own sales training, coaching, and consulting business. 2020 has been a great year for Rana, following also the delivery in March of your fantastic TED Talk, which I've watched and I loved it, on how you can achieve anything in life by learning how to sell. And was recently featured in Yahoo Finance as one of the top 10 sales coaches thriving in 2020. Wow. How do you feel about that?
Thank you. It was awkward listening to you introducing all the things I do. I'm like, okay. But thanks. That was a good introduction. I feel great.
Mm-hmm.
It was always my dream to talk on TEDx. And it happened sooner than I planned, because my plan was I'm going to talk in 5 years' time. So when it happened, I was like, I'm not even ready, but I kind of pulled it off.
I've watched the talk, and it was really, it was 17 minutes on the spot, with the key pointers being really clear to me. And I think it gives me a pass to ask you something very fundamental. What do we even mean by the word sales?
That's a hard question. Do you know what doing? I guess, sales is people want to buy, like they're always buying something, right? So at the end of the day, as a salesperson, I look at it like I'm helping that person simplify their buying decision and fit the right product for them and help them improve their life or take away their pain, X, Y, Z. So I'm just that person facilitating that process to make it easy. And obviously, sales from a business point of view, I'm helping businesses grow. So when I am a salesperson in a business, I'm helping create more jobs. I'm helping the economy. I'm helping the company grow. So there's two sides. There's helping the customer, but also I look at it like helping the company I'm working in, helping myself, helping my family, because the more I sell, the more I'm going to benefit as well myself. Win-win.
So it's about helping. Would you say that to sell is to serve?
I think, yeah, it is to serve, but it is to help, it is to serve, but I also see it like a win-win, okay? Because I don't look at it like you're a salesperson, you're a martyr, and you're just like sacrificing. Like there's a lot of, social workers and things like that. I think that's like But at the same time, being a salesperson, there are ethical salespeople that want the best for the customer, and they're there to make friends, build relationships, and they would simplify the sales process. But there are other types of salespeople that they give a bad name to the industry, and it's just about that kind of quick transaction, next, profits over people. So you decide which type of salesperson you want to be.
I think you mentioned something really important there, which also explains the taboo sort of atmosphere looming over sales conversations, in the sense that there are negative associations with sales, which have to do with some traditional pushy types of salespersons stereotypes. You know, the kind of person that sticks their foot in the door so that they sell something to you, or that they give you some of their brochures, or the people who run after you and they chase you to sell their stuff. But I think, do you think that nowadays it is still possible to get away with these pushy, aggressive sort of sales approaches? Is it something that is still valid today, or we are moving towards a different type of salesmanship, if I may use that term?
Well, I think, even back in the 80s and 70s, there's sales books that have been written about being desperate and showing pushiness is not good in sales. But I think back then they did use a lot more sales tricks. So they did use specific sales techniques and psychology and, creating that emotion and urgency and things like that. But where now it's more about it has to become client-centric. And even the buyers, the younger generation, they're looking for ethical people to do business with. They want to do business with people that are more purpose-driven, mission-driven. But yeah, you can get away with the high pressure, a little bit high pressure, if you're selling low cost, so if I'm calling on the phone and it's a telemarketing call, yeah, you can kind of get away with it because it's just about numbers. And you might be selling low cost, high volume. But if you are selling to businesses and enterprise, and you are selling high value products and services, then you're not going to get away with that, because people in business are very smart. There's a lot of decision makers, there's a lot of stakeholders involved, and it's not just a quick transaction. It's not like the mum and dad in charge of their credit card and they can just take it out and say, here you go, I can buy this holiday, or I can buy these headphones. It's a lot of different, it's quite complex. Internal politics. There could be 3 people that want your product and the other 2 hate your guts. So no, you're not going to get away, and your credibility and reputation can just be ruined in a second in the business to business enterprise world as well.
I think you are correct in that the business to business landscape, when we're talking about selling to businesses, is completely different. And there are more stakeholders, more decision makers, and even the gatekeeper in a company, whether this is the learning and development officer, which is for a course, or whether it's the IT, the chief technology officer who may want to buy software or services. I mean, unless you manage to convince them that you're trustworthy and that you are somebody who they would feel comfortable recommending you to the board, right, or to the key decision maker in the organization, I don't think you get really far away. And you remind me, talking about the 80s, you remind me of the lemon story, which was about, people were selling used cars, especially in the US, and if you the unsuspected buyer were unable to spot the defect, let's say, in the car you were purchasing, well, the shame was on you, because at that time it was not possible for you to verify the credibility, let's say, of the salesman, or of the brand of the product, and perhaps the innate defects that had at the time. And this basically, this is why they call them lemon cards, because you could be fooled by salespeople easily, and that also led to the taboo over the sales concept. But today we live in a world where there are checks and balances everywhere. So what we are seeing is that unless you have integrity in what you said, unless you are an ethical salesperson, and if you sell a crappy product, people will go on name and shame websites, right? And really say all bad things about you. They will go on your website and leave a nasty review, 0 stars, and tell you this is a fraud or whatever. So I think today, because of the internet and the fact that people can go to forums and check about the specific types of products, cars even they buy, there are more checks and balances which motivate salespeople, be it because everyone is in sales. I mean, even lawyers, insurance people, they motivate them, or they necessitate a more ethical approach to sales. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I was going to mention, absolutely. So just one bad review can ruin your whole reputation. And it's not just one bad review about your product and service. It could be one bad review about your customer service, and they could put your whole name on the website. And then when you go to look for a job, that employer sees that customers have written a bad review about you, and it could even damage your chances of getting an opportunity in the workplace. So you don't even have to be a salesperson to get a bad review from a customer. I mean, there are people that are going to people's Facebook pages and ruining their whole lives and getting them fired just because they said something out of line or not within the brand of the company or whatever. So yeah, it's we're living in a great time, but also a time that you can't hide your ethics.
And if you hide, people will question and query why in a world where brands are out there publishing themselves and their stories, if you choose to hide, again, it suggests something about you. I don't know, perhaps.
Yeah. Absolutely. There are some people that have so if I wanted to find something about somebody, whether it's for a housemate or a job, and I don't see anything on them, I mean, great, good on them. That's the way. But sometimes it's great to have something online about you, a digital footprint, so people can build that rapport and trust with you even before they meet you. It doesn't have to be where you're posting every day, every week. You can just have, I don't know, something, on your Facebook or on your LinkedIn or something that just shows your human side.
So I think that having a digital footprint is a double-edged sword in the sense that once you decide to put yourself out there, you must be open to positive and critical reviews as well. I mean, for example, if you decide to have a Facebook page, then you have to be ready to get positive and negative reviews. If you decide to go on LinkedIn and generate content so as to deliver your message, you have to be open to that as well. Do you think a personal brand is important today in sales or in any kind of commercial activity? That maybe, what's the importance of a personal brand today? Talking about, let's take individual professionals who would like to spread their wings into the commercial stratosphere. How important is a personal brand?
I think, you know what, the thing is, as you said, it is a double-edged sword. If you're a person that, I don't know, I feel bad to say, like, maybe people are hard to figure out. You're just somebody that kind of doesn't have any restraint, and you're just like posting online every day, and you're just negative, you're putting people down, you hate your life. And then I was a recruiter or at a customer, and I went and I looked at your profile, I might think, well, you know what, this person might be nice, but I don't like their energy. Okay, so if you do decide to create a personal digital footprint, you have to be aware that it could either work in your favor or work against you, depending on what type of person you are. And yeah, I think like there's this whole movement, be authentic. And I think, yeah, be authentic, but with tact. Like, for example, I don't go to a restaurant and I start eating with my, sometimes I do, you know, but like eating with my hands, and like there's etiquette. Even when you go out in society, you have to put clothes on, you have to, and I don't even like the word etiquette, but there is etiquette. And I think online as well, it's good to be aware of how you behave and present yourself. But at the same time, yeah, be yourself, whatever, like, but yeah, so it's hard. Like, I don't have the exact answer, but, you know, as I said in my talk, and I think you did mention, you can create rapport with people online, and you can get people to want to buy from you or buy into who you are or your ideas even before they meet you face to face.
Let's take LinkedIn, which is the place to be, as the tagline goes. How do you create rapport on LinkedIn? Okay, let me give you the worst example. I send you a message. Hi, Rana, here is my product. Would you like to buy it? I mean, that's a catastrophe, right? That means, how do you build rapport and trust on an online platform? Like, what are the components, the ingredients to build rapport, and then hopefully converting it to potential business? Can everyone do it? What's your view on it?
So your self-orientation on LinkedIn needs to be low. So if you put on a scale of 1 to 10, where is your self-orientation? Is it a 7, 8, 9, 10? You're not going to succeed on LinkedIn. But if it's a bit lower and you are thinking, how can I help other people get to it? And it's hard because we're very, you know, we wake up and it's all about us surviving, eating, how we feel, getting ahead. So it is something that you have to work at the same time. And some people are naturally altruistic and they really want to give, and that's in their nature. But other people, they have to learn that as well. So you will succeed and build rapport if you think about, how can I help others get to where they want to be? So that could be through creating your content, sharing information, liking their posts, engaging on their posts, being positive, reaching out to them, saying hello, posting something that could brighten their day, like a video that, you know, I've seen people tell me that video that you posted, it wasn't even me, it was some motivational speaker I posted. They said, I was like thinking of the worst, darkest thoughts and it saved my day. Like, thank you so much. Because yeah, so I think that's how you build rapport.
You gave them value.
Yeah.
I remember in 2018, I told you this story quite a few times. You posted a video, and it was around that time in the summer of 2018 that I began using LinkedIn. It was I had a dormant, a passive account. And then I saw a video. You posted a video giving some really highly valuable tips on sales and influence, I remember. And I was thinking to myself, how the heck is this lady giving so much value for free on a video? Am I missing something? I mean, why does she? And it was like to the point. If you do this, if you do that, nothing withheld. And this is when I contact you for the first time, and you helped me.
We spoke for the first time, yeah.
And you helped me understand that this is the exact point of how you begin to show people that of your character, of your intentions, of your value, and your appetite as well, and your willingness to play the long game. Because you said something in your TED talk that stuck with me, which is about planting seeds. I mean, if the only thing you do on LinkedIn is buy my service, buy my product, buy my that, this immediate, and you seek the immediate gratification of doing something now, as opposed to playing the long game, I think you will lose. What do you think about the long game? Is it important to go in for the long game?
It's important because it's so hard, because you can't measure the long game. For example, if I go to the gym and I'm overweight and I'm going to go and start training every day, and then after 2 weeks, I'm not going to see results even after a month. So a lot of people, what they do, even at the gym or even with their diet, they give up. So LinkedIn is just like the gym. The more you start to create value, share content, build relationships, nurture, you're just planting all these seeds that are going to grow eventually. And it is frustrating. You are going to get frustrated along the way because you might not see results straight away. You might not even see results for a year sometimes. And a lot of the branding, it's not measurable results. A lot of people say to me, so, tell me about, how do you sell when you're doing, I don't really, I just know that all the stuff that I'm doing, I'm building. At the end of the day, I'm getting a lot more people taking me seriously, and I'm getting a lot more people reaching out to me and coming to me. And even I'm getting so many more people building that trust with me, where it would have taken a lot longer. I would have had to go to so many coffees and meetings and to prove myself, where people are just coming to me and they're already sold on who I am because I showed who I am. And so I was showing people what I can do, especially when you're like if you're a coach, you're a trainer, you're anything to do with communication, you cannot get away with not even having, I don't do a lot of videos, but having some videos, sharing some articles, writing blogs, showing what you can do, showcasing what you can do. And I didn't do this for a long time. Like, even though I kind of knew it, I didn't want to do it because I thought that, well, I don't want to, like, I'm already working in this, I'm getting paid, like, I don't need this. But at the end of the day, I think I put myself at a disadvantage because I resisted for a long time.
What do you think of people who feel that doing video will expose them as vulnerable or will expose their vulnerability? So it's a personal thing, but do you think that, let me twist the question, do you think that it is in everyone's interest to consider delving into the personal branding chapter more vigorously, with more zest, like doing videos, publishing stuff? Is it, if they don't do it, they will stay behind? What's your take on it?
That's a hard one because I think if you're selling anything in business, services and things that you need to show your face, you can. But like, say I sell on Amazon, or I have like some online shop, or I don't know, I work in a supermarket. There's some things that you don't need to build a personal brand for, because people are still going to buy them because there's like a necessity. But this is a hard question too. I do know that if you're selling, you can make life a lot easier, especially if you're an introvert and you're not somebody that likes to go out to a lot of networking events. You're not someone that likes to always be talking on the phone. Then I think online could really help you. But there are some people, don't get me wrong, they do really well without the online. They might have to work a little bit harder, by the way, with all the outreach and the prospecting and things like that. But I think some people, they could do well without LinkedIn because they're extroverts and they're always at the net. Like, I met a guy that said to me, he sold so much and he doesn't really do any videos or anything. He's a coach and he sold like 40 grand in a month during COVID from his BNI group.
Yep, I know BNI, yes.
Yeah, because he met all these people, he built relationships with them and he built trust and he gave them a lot of free things. So don't get me wrong, you can still, like, I'm not saying that you can't sell without, because I've always said you don't need online branding to sell, but at the same time, it's going to make your life easier.
I think that the introvert versus extrovert prism is a very accurate one to capture this conversation. What do you think about introverts versus extroverts? Who is the best in selling, regardless of whether they use LinkedIn or not? There is a myth, or there is a sort of a perception that if you are an extrovert, you have better chances of building rapport. On the other hand, and I will give the floor to you, what I believe is that introverts may lack this ability to get out and be extremely social, but they have a better developed sense of empathy. What's your take on the sales, on this scale of introvert versus extrovert? Who is or maybe which components or ingredients should be combined so as to make a great salesperson?
Okay, let me think. Yeah, so I've always said introverts make really good salespeople because they don't trigger the fight or flight response in people when they're talking. But the only problem with introverts is when it comes to following up and building relationships, because they don't like to talk to, I mean, this is just generalizing, but they don't like to talk to a lot of people, and they're not into small talk, and so that could be a problem for them. So that's where they might have to work a little bit more, where the extroverts have to work more in just kind of shutting up and listening and not being so in your face when they like that intense energy that can kind of scare people. But apparently I read recently that the best salespeople are the ones in the middle. They're called ambiverts, I think.
Yeah.
Have both, like to have that balance in the middle.
So it's a myth that extroverts sell better. I agree. I think that you need to take components from introverts and extroverts, and perhaps an introvert can polish those skills that they're lacking, like communication, like confidence, whereas the extrovert, maybe they need more training on emotional intelligence and having the patience to, and active listening. What do you think? Do you think that emotional intelligence is important for sales, Rana?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been studies that have where, I don't know if it was L'Oreal or a big brand, and they took their salespeople through the emotional intelligence program, and they sold, don't quote me on this, like 30% more or 40% more than the salespeople that didn't go through the emotional intelligence as well. So yeah, absolutely. Like, especially when it comes to the empathy side of things. So you need to have empathy. You need to have motivation and self-awareness of where the gaps are in your own. So if I'm somebody that just keeps on talking and I don't listen and I don't ask good questions, or I might get triggered really, because also self-regulation is another component of emotional intelligence. So yeah, so you need to self-regulate really well when it comes to selling. Otherwise, all that rejection and people being rude is going to get to you. So absolutely.
I think you mentioned a word that is really hot in the sales conversations: rejection. And rejection sucks for many people. Okay, is it possible? Is it possible to build a muscle so as to withstand and deflect the unpleasantness associated with rejection? Is it possible to grow a thick skin? Are you born with a thick skin? Can you learn how to do it? Is it a muscle? How do you handle rejection?
It depends on that person. So if someone has a growth mindset, or they train themselves to have a growth mindset where whatever negative things happen to them, they look at the opportunity, then they could probably handle rejection. But some people, they have a very the fixed mindset, the ones that well, I made 50 calls this week and I'm not getting anywhere. There's no point. I'm not good at making calls. People hate me. Sales sucks. And those people, they're not going to condition their minds to embrace rejection. And when it comes to rejection, the number one thing I always say is you have to expect and accept rejection. Because if you let it shock you, then it's going to be hard. Because 95% of the people that you want to do business with don't have a need for what you have. And your job is to find the right people, like even that 1 or 2% that are going to be your customers.
I also think that rejection is an opportunity for you to recalibrate your approach and to perfect your pitch. I mean, okay, it's easy to say it when you are sober and when you haven't been through the cold shower of rejection, but in my experience, the rejections that I had in my consulting business helped me formulate a clearer message and helped me perfect my offer in a way that helped me land a new job. But the question is, how easy it for somebody to not to quit after receiving a number of rejections and take it personally. And I wonder whether it's something that you can build or something that you take with you from, I don't know, maybe it's a genes thing, maybe it's a DNA thing.
Well, I mean, there's a few things you can do. Number one is you have to identify the impact that you're making in your whatever you're selling. So how are you going to change? So the more you believe in your product and services, the more that you are not going to care and not let rejection get in your way. So you're not going to give up. Then number two is you have to change the story that you're going to tell yourself. So if every time I get on the phone and I tell myself, well, I'm going to bother people, our product sucks, whatever, you have to change that story, even if it's a fake story that you have to make yourself believe until you condition your mind. Number three is before you go out, you have to, as Tony Robbins says, use your physiology, change your physiology. You're smiling, put your shoulders back because it's going to help you become more confident no matter what happens. Number four is reframing. So reframing means if I made 50 calls today, and as you mentioned, I'm thinking this is my chance to practice. I had good practice. It's not rejection. It's just, so you look at it like glass half full. For people, for example, some people are looking at COVID-19 as opportunity to get better, grow, etc. And then number five is develop mastery. So the more that you're going to learn how to sell, how to communicate, the more that you're going to get better, by the way, at selling. Because I've seen people, and even myself, when I first started making cold calls, I was so bad compared to what I am at now, years later. And that's because I've developed mastery. And also, if I stop making calls for 6 months, I lose my mastery, by the way. So it's all about just practicing. So I always take people through those 5 kind of steps to build that confidence and not let rejection get to them.
So confidence is a muscle. You need to keep practicing it, flexing it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And definitely. But it depends on your kind of mental state, the circumstances around you. If you're in a bad relationship and that person every day they're telling you that you're a loser, your confidence can go from here to there. Or if you have a boss that's putting you down. So it's a matter of also just working on your ego and protecting yourself and putting yourself in the right environment. I know it's not easy to leave friendships, relationships, or whatever, but sometimes you're not confident because the people around you are trying to tear down your confidence and self-esteem. So that could be, or sometimes it could be something in like the chemicals in someone's brain, because some people with their mental health, they suffer a lot more. So those people have to work harder because they have less of a mental health privilege than somebody else that could be like mentally strong. So it's been about being self-aware and identifying, this is what I have to work on, and I have to work so much harder. For example, I have dyslexia. When I have to write emails and things like that, I probably spend 20 minutes extra on average per email sometimes than a normal person so I spend maybe a few hours a day sometimes having to prove, but I have to work harder. I know I don't let that get to me. I don't like, oh my God, life's so unfair, I'm just going to give up. I'm just like, okay, I have to work harder than some other people, but some other people have it harder in other things. So yeah, it's always self-awareness, identifying the gaps, and then making it happen.
So self-awareness.
Yeah. And as you said, it's a muscle. Practice, flex those muscles.
I've read somewhere that, I will come back to the confidence point, but I've read somewhere that, and I'm using it in my trainings, sales is 95% conviction and only 5% persuasion. I think that unless you believe, as you said, in the value that you intend to bring to the prospect, it is going to be futile to use persuasion techniques and tricks, NLP, and tools that can help you perfect your pitch. Do you think this is true? That the actual techniques will not get you far unless you convince yourself first that you have value and real compelling value.
Absolutely. So that's not even just value in your product, value in yourself. So that is all comes down to the confidence in yourself and in what you're selling. And sometimes it takes, like, it does take time to build confidence. Sometimes when you're starting out in a new, say I start out with a new company and it's a new product or service, or I go out on my own and I'm a consultant, you might not have confidence because maybe you haven't seen the results yet. Okay, so you have to, sometimes it takes time to get that confidence. And then once you start to see that you are getting results, you're helping your customers get results, then you are, of course, you're just going to be confident. And if you're not good, get better. If your product is crap, make it better or leave that job and sell a better product, because you're never going to you're not going to have, as you said, the conviction.
That was my next question, and you've preempted it in the sense that if I'm working in a job selling a product or a service in which I do not believe, then I think I am buying myself a ticket to misery and to lack of motivation, lack of conviction, lack of confidence. So although it's a difficult call to quit a job when you have bills to pay and you have ends to meet, so as to find something in which you have a better belief in, I think in the longer term it will serve you better, because it will be more aligned with you, not only as a salesperson, but as a professional and as a person as well. So do you think that people who do not really feel motivated to sell should consider whether they are not really, they haven't bought into what it is that their employer is selling? Is it a valid consideration?
Yeah.
Please go on.
Yeah, if you're working somewhere and you are selling a product and there's a lot of complaints about it, or the customers are not satisfied, and you're doing everything you can to build those relationships, that's going to ruin your reputation and credibility in that industry. So, because people talk, and that could also ruin your personal brand if you are selling something that is not 100% going to satisfy the customer.
Let alone not believing that your product has value or helps solve a problem or alleviate the pain. That could be even worse, in my view. And I've seen it, especially now when I was working in the financial services sector as a lawyer, corporate lawyer, and I know that some lawyers were asked, for example, to do some tasks to help some kind of clients or to engage in some, let's say, gray areas of business, okay, in which they do not believe, but they had to do it. And you can see in a conference room, in a meeting with a client, you can see that that the person is not really exuding enthusiasm, confidence. So unless you align yourself with the values of your employer and with the attributes and the value of the products or services which you're selling, I think there will be a mismatch that inevitably will erode your chances of selling.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah, absolutely. But, there are some people out there, they don't care. For them, the highest value is making money, and they would step on anyone to make that money. And they don't care what product it is or how faulty or whatever. And you've seen, examples of this with some schemes in the 80s or the 90s. I don't remember what they're called, but there were people that were selling things that were unethical, and they didn't care. They just because it was for them, it was more about the money. And that was what was their highest value, was making money. It was not about customer satisfaction or anything like that.
It was, yeah. In the pyramid schemes in the stock exchange, I think the Wall Street sort of the Wolf of Wall Street movie which you mentioned as well in your TED talk, or portrays this lack of ethical reservations rather boldly as well. Okay, so it's a character thing as well. Some people simply don't care, so they will fire away whether or not they believe in the value of their product or service.
Right? I've seen that happen. I even wrote a novel about this. It's a fiction,
Really?
but it's based on real salespeople, and there's examples of these people and the tricks and the lies and the things that they used to use just to sell, and they didn't care. Although the product was good, but they just lied. They made it better than what it was. So they over promised and under delivered.
Which sort of amounts to a kind of manipulation as well, or
manipulation. And that's what they were taught on the sales floor. They were taught to manipulate.
So persuasion and influence, which are key pillars of sales, I think there is also a negative connotation there. Is it correct? Persuasion, because people want to be taught of these skills. You know, the whole Cialdini concepts of persuasion. Is there truth to the allegation that these things are manipulative? These concepts lead to a manipulative approach of sales, or it's a myth as well? I mean, using persuasion and influence, is it something negative, you think, in your mind, or it depends on how you view it?
So at the end of the day, whether you are going on a date, are you going to show up in your pajamas? You're really manipulating, right? Because you put makeup on, not you. So I'm just like, I did say in my TED talk that you can't really influence somebody. They have to feel that they are the ones making decision, and that's using Socratic questioning and taking them on a thinking journey in order for them to make their own decision. But you can position the situation where it makes it easier for them to trust in you, but it has to be real. So for example, if I'm building my credibility and I'm saying, you know what, I know what I'm doing, I've had this many years sales experience, whatever, and I've helped this many customers, it is real. But I'm positioning myself because I'm going to talk about it. I might talk about it in a video, or I might put it on my profile on my LinkedIn, or I might put it in my resume. So that's one way of positioning yourself to influence the outcome. Taking a nice headshot in a studio, looking professional, that doesn't look like you sometimes 100%.
Yeah, you're correct.
And wearing a suit, but you are positioning to influence. So as long as it's ethical and you are being real and transparent, then yeah. But I mean, Cialdini is a genius, and I follow Cialdini's in all my work for my business. I follow his principles of influence in everything I do, from the social proof to the liking, to building your authority.
At the end of the day, it's about intention. I think it's about what your intention is. Yeah. Okay, if your intention is to penetrate the wall of distrust so as to reach and to convey your message to the prospect, I don't think that it's unethical. So if you believe in the value of what you have to offer, but you realize that there is so much noise today and you need to be able to position yourself before your prospects so as to give them value, I think there is nothing wrong with that. You're correct. But if you don't have that and your only concern is to use hocus pocus so as to push your products that in which you don't believe, to them it's a different story.
Yeah, as long as you know that it's going to help and change their life and help them, or change their business and make their life easier in their business. So for example, for me, when I'm selling sales training, I'm helping salespeople and non-salespeople, number one, take away the anxiety of getting on the phone. Now, I can't guarantee that I can do that with every person, but I can do it with many people and I can help them. Number two, I can make their life on the job easier. I can even help save their job, because once they start performing, they're not going to lose their job. So there's a lot of things that I believe in. And when I'm going out to sell my sales training, I'm thinking about the impact I'm making in those people's lives. And let's put aside even making profit for the company. Like I'm thinking about those specific individuals, the staff members that are not really my clients because they're not the ones paying for me. And actually, it's a lot harder to work with people that are not paying, by the way. But it can be done.
So it's about the personal mission as well, I think. And if you manage to come to terms with what you are about and what your mission is, or what motivates you and gets you up in the morning, it's going to be much easier for you to find reasons to do things that may appear, like cold calling or reaching out to people to tell them what you do, or to try to sell the stuff that they may not need.
Yeah, as long as you are led with a mission and you understand the impact you're making in that person's life or business, then you're not going to be scared most of the time to go out and sell whatever you're selling.
What are the key, and we are wrapping up the discussion, I think we covered some really good points. What are the key skills involved in effectively selling a product or service? Are these common skills in all industries?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, in all industries. What do you mean all industries?
I mean, a lawyer, the skills that a lawyer requires, for example.
Okay, because your clients are lawyers most of the time.
Yeah, let's say law firms or an insurance advisor.
If you're defending a criminal as a lawyer, you could, if you're somebody that thinks about that person, maybe they didn't grow up on the right side of town, then you could have, if you have a lot of empathy, no matter what the criminal has done, you can always believe, because you have to believe in what you're selling, right? So when you're in the courtroom, how are you going to have that conviction to defend that person who is a murderer, right? So you have to reprogram your mind to have to put yourself in their life, in their journey. But like there are some skills overall, like universal skills when it comes to selling. I think the most important is the trust that people have with you. And trust doesn't have to be where they like you and they think that you're amazing, and that trust that you can do the job, that you're competent, your product is going to make a difference, right? Because a lot of people will say, well, yeah, they have to like you, but I don't think it's more important than them trusting in the results. Because I've bought from many people who I liked, but you know what? I didn't hate them. I don't think you can buy from someone unless they're a doctor or a funeral director that, like you have no choice. But yeah, so liking. Number 2, an important skill is listening, because a great salesperson, the best sales, there was a study done like with thousands of people, and it was like millions of dollars over many years, and it's called spin selling. And they listened to, I think, don't quote me on this, but 30,000 plus calls. And they discovered that the best salespeople were those that asked questions and that were listening. They didn't talk a lot. Okay, so listening. And another one is the confidence that you have in yourself. Like, I think that's number 1, the confidence in your product and service. So if you can just like kind of get those 3, then that's great. But then also there's another element of selling. If you are good at trust, you're good at asking questions, and you're good at confidence, but you don't know how to prospect, for example, say your job is the end-to-end sales, then you're screwed, because there's no one there that you can build trust with. There's no one there that you can have the confidence. So you have to know also how to fill a pipeline, which is also important. So that's like kind of, there's that piece, but then there's another piece of understanding the prospecting, the sales cadence, and that's like another whole art separate to even sales, for example.
Prospecting. So the art of prospecting.
The art of prospecting, because if you don't have a pipeline or people to talk to, it doesn't matter how great of a communicator you are. It doesn't matter how great closer you are. You're not going to be able to, you're not going to have anyone there to talk to. But some salespeople are lucky because they have somebody doing that for them. like people that are setting appointments for them. But if there are other salespeople, like people in recruitment or other sales jobs that might not have a huge company or have the budget, or even startups, you have to do everything. You have to do everything from the prospecting to the closing and everything in between.
That's clear. I think the art of prospecting and keeping a pipeline full is basically what it's like what happens below the surface of the iceberg. Because
yeah,
I've read somewhere like that the conversion rate, from prospecting to converting is like 5 to 10%. Is it accurate? Don't quote me on this, but I've seen that if you have 10 prospects, let's say, that your maximum conversion rate could be 1 maximum to 2 people. Let's say if you are doing one-on-one consulting or coaching. So unless you have a pipeline of potential customers, the majority of whom most likely will not convert at all times, this means that you may be the best salesman in the world, but you have no clients. This is what you mean.
Yeah. So can you just repeat the part about the 5 to 10%? I missed that.
I've read somewhere that on average, 5 to 15% is the conversion rate to convert a prospect into a customer.
Okay.
So you have 10 prospects.
Yeah.
The chances are you will convert, let's say, 1 to 2 maximum at a time, and then the rest will think about it later, will sleep on it, will not respond to you, which means that it's imperative that you keep at it, you accept rejections, and it's part of the game that the majority of the people who show an interest to you or your leads will bounce. Is it a valid thing?
Yeah, if you qualify well, then you could convert 1 or 2 of those people. But if you qualify bad, you're going to convert 0 of those people. And also some sales processes are longer. So some of them, on the phone, it's just a number. So on the phone, telemarketers that are selling high volume, low cost insurance, or I don't know, what do they sell on the phone? Internet packages. They could convert a lot more sometimes than the people that are selling consulting services or software to $1 million software. It's going to take, and sometimes you have to talk to 200 people to get that one client. Okay, so it all depends. Like, I think the thing that's important for people that are listening to kind of realize, there are very different types of sales processes. I mean, the human psychology and fundamentals are quite similar, but there are different strategies. So if you're selling to organizations, people say there's no B2B or B2C, there's B2H, B2B or B2C, there's business to human, or no, H to H, human to human.
Yeah, human to human.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, that's nice and idealistic, but at the end of the day, no, there is B2B and there is B2C, and if you don't understand the difference, you are screwed. I'm sorry.
I mean, you cannot sell a huge contract to a huge conglomerate through a telephone. Can I sell to you?
Some people think that. Like, I've coached startups that were selling to enterprise, but they came from a telemarketing mentality, and they gave up after 500 calls because they said they didn't close any deals. And I said, of course you're not going to close any deals because you're selling I don't know, $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 packages. I said, if you did well by getting an email address, getting a little bit more time, or getting some information about their business, then you have closed something on the phone. Okay. And the best, of course you need to get an appointment, but sometimes it's just a phone call in a business to business enterprise. It's just one of the touch points of many, because you need to have many touch points with you. There's a marketing team. If you have a good marketing team, they're helping you through Facebook ads and pop-up ads, with brand recognition, and also with you as a salesperson, using LinkedIn, using email, using the phone, using voice message, using text message, door knocking, getting creative, all the value adding stuff, and all the hunting and farming as well.
Hunting and farming. I've even, on the touch points, I've even read somewhere that if a prospect sees 10 pieces of content of a brand, of a company, or of a provider, or more, they are 10 times more likely to buy from a brand than not. So I guess something similar applies for touch points. You need to increase your touch points depending on the value of the...
That is touch points. So they saw your brand 10 times. That is 10 touch points. Apparently, they need to see it 20 or more times. Some people say 20. Some marketers say 27. In the past, it used to be 7. Apparently, now it's gone up to 20. So,
which shows why the online content, quality content activity, can help you build more trust, right, for the longer term.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why you can't really sometimes measure it, but you just know that you're building more credibility, and it takes time. Like when I first started my business almost 7 years ago, so I think in October, it will be 7 years. I reached out to a lot of people on LinkedIn, to be honest with you. I wasn't doing my personal branding. I was doing a lot of prospecting. Now, if I'm going to reach out to the same people right now, I will get... So I used to get like barely any responses sometimes, or sometimes some responses, but now I get so many more responses. And some people say, thank you, I've been following you on LinkedIn. When I'm trying to sell to them, like I don't try and sell directly, but I'm, it's like that sales message where, hey, check out, this is what I do. I'd love to meet you. I want to talk to you more about what we do. And they're like, yes, or I've been following you, or thank you. Like they're looking at, I've got more credibility because they've seen me through touch points. And my touch points are not just on LinkedIn. I have a huge email marketing campaign. If I had to choose between, and I would say, if someone said you have to choose between your email marketing list or your LinkedIn, I'd choose my email marketing. Although I have 40,000 followers on LinkedIn, I would still choose my email marketing. That's where I built a lot of my personal brand, by the way, through the, I share a lot of articles and also some videos with my and though some of them I don't share them anywhere outside of my email marketing, so I don't even share them on the public blogs.
You need a multiple of tools, and touch points can be either online, offline, but even online touch points can be through LinkedIn, through email marketing, through Facebook, through webinars, perhaps through... It's not as easy as it looks. That's why you said in your TED talk, like, and we can wrap it. I have a couple of points, Rana, comments from viewers. And
let me see. Let me go on my screen.
Let's see them now, actually. Let's see them now. Okay.
Yeah, I need to go on my...
I'll put them on the screen now. Okay, from Santiago Vela. Hi, Rana. Amazing talk.
Santiago. Wait. What's...
Santiago Vela.
Where is he from? I think I know him.
It's from Facebook. It's one of your fans.
No. Wait. Give me a sec.
No worries.
Thank you, Santiago.
So we have a comment from Stathis, who is a prominent insurance advisor in Cyprus, an ex-Olympian as well. Hello, wow. Stathis. Stathis asks us, how about overpromise and overdeliver? We said that if you overpromise and you underdeliver, the result will be really detrimental to you as a salesperson. But Stathis asks, how about if you overpromise and you overdeliver? Do you have any comment there?
I think, that should be fine. Overpromise, and as long as you're confident in yourself to overdeliver. And even I think I overpromise and overdeliver many times, because I believe so much in what I do that I get so excited. I'm like, yes, I'm going to help you. I'm going to get you. And then I go and I'm like, oh my God, I've just overpromised. So I have to even like work and give so much more than what I have given.
So it's a good tip by Stathis. So as long as you don't overpromise and underdeliver, you should be good to go. And by Noreen Mosley, hello, Rana and Philippos. Hello, thank you for your comment, Noreen. I think we pretty much wrapped up the comments.
Hi, Noreen. I just want to say hi, Noreen.
Yeah, I would like to ask you about your plans. I see that you have a new exciting online course coming up, Effective Reverse Marketing and Sales, on the 15th of July. Is correct?
Yeah.
You want to say a few things about that? It looks really interesting and comprehensive.
Okay, so this course is quite exclusive to a niche market. It's not for everybody. It's for a niche market that work in employment services. So it's for consultants that help unemployed people into work. And I teach those employment consultants how to market and sell their job seekers into a job. And many of those job seekers maybe have been unemployed for a long time, have barriers, have maybe English as a second language, or even disabilities. And yeah, so it's just getting on the phone and contacting employers, going out door knocking, and creating awareness and partnerships with the employers to give those people a chance, because a lot of those people, sometimes they might have many career gaps or specific disabilities that they might not fit into the workplace. So yeah, that course is quite specific. But if anyone wants to check out my other course, it's called Selling for Non-Salespeople online. That's more general for everybody that's not a salesperson that learn how to sell. And that's all from me.
I've done it. I've done the course. The Sales for Non-Sales People is fantastic. I told you it's really helpful. I highly recommend everyone to check out Rana's work. She's really consistent, reliable, and trustworthy in what she does. I know her for 2 years, but I can vouch for her with all my might and my heart. Thank you for being a guest. Really, I'm very happy about it.
Thank you. It's an honor. I love your work too, and I follow your work, and I love watching your journey, like how you've just reached and you keep on growing, and yeah, it's amazing. I knew that you had talent when your first video. I was like, this guy's got talent. He's got passion. He knows what he's talking about. He knows how to create all these frameworks and acronyms. I like this guy.
I learned from the best. Remember that you were the first person I saw your first video. So thank you to our viewers. Good luck with everything you do with the course and your next projects, and we will be in touch, hopefully in a new episode as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, Rana. Take care. Bye. Ciao.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.
Ciao.
I save a prayer for those who care. I keep the faith, but no one will dare to hold my hand until the end. When all the pieces fall into place, my body's weak, the mind is tired, but there's a fire that heals deep inside. I close my eyes and stretch my soul to gather